Onegaishimasu. And stacking the vertebrae on top of each other. And then intending and feeling space between the vertebrae. That will go a long way to verticalizing and opening the shape of the body, the structure. Again, my favorite definition of good posture is open, spacious structure. And once we have the spine long and open, space in between the vertebrae, we just let the muscles relax off that very upright, open structure. Consciously releasing the abdomen. And focusing on consciously releasing tensions on the out breath, physical tensions and tightness, mental tension. Let it go on the out breath. All the while, the skeletal structure stays very bright and clear, upright and open. You might become conscious of weight settling underside, like a pebble dropping through the lake until it reaches the bottom of the silt of the lake. Everything settles within that upright, open structure. And again, staying settled, upright, noticing when you deviate from that, pull away from that, shirk away from it, come back to settled, long and open. As you slowly relax down, press down, to be sent up. And take that into your standing. To allow a bit more space in your joints, all the joints, shoulder joints. Intending and allowing space between the vertebrae. Don't forget the vertebrae of the neck as well. That'll automatically make some correction here. And also don't forget about the lower spine. That'll make some organic correction there. Opening, lengthening, lower spine, upper spine, everything hangs out in between. And just ensuring the knees are bent a little bit as we start some arm swings. So right now, no weight shift, so just a washing machine kind of action. I want those knees bent so that they're nice and secure, stable. Consciously release the abdomen. Back crown of the head continues to rise as the sacrum continues to sink and drop. A little bit wider, so then we can add a weight shift, so a little bit more movement. So notice, have I pulled in, have I shirked in this larger movement, larger shape? I settle, verticalize, expand, as I continue to settle. How much can you just let go in the shoulder joints? Let those shoulder joints, again, expand, increase space happening in the shoulder joints. How much can I just let that go? And a bit more movement. I can turn a little further, come up on the ball of that foot. So again, a more complex maneuver. So more things will go wrong, or we'll lose some of those things. Maybe leaning and firing these muscles, I've lost the verticality. Maybe tightening the belly and the breath. especially as I turn, tightening. Try to stay open and release. Noticing when you lose that. So can I remain poised, regal in my shape, even as I go into a more dynamic movement? I can keep composure, this regalness, poisedness, with this shape and this quality. Noticing when you lose it. This is not very regal or poised. Just being tense and tight is not either. It's also just being very aligned, natural. Regal and poised maybe can sound a little bit contrived, artificial. It's at the same time very natural. Again, connecting to natural forces of gravity and the earth pushing back. So just aligning nature. And taking a long forward stance. Same action, we're just shifting the weight forward and back. We get a chance to see how much we can release the upper body, consciously release the abdomen. How much can I let the shoulders go? How much can I rely on the ground? I just press down the foot to send me back. I press down the foot, send me forward. Let the ground shift the weight for me. I get to work on my alignment, my positive verticality, my positive relaxed releaseness. I get to work on those things. I let the ground push me, move me. If you have room in the brain, you might work with or think of weight underside. Well, different phrases, different angles, saying the same principles. Because one of those angles are more likely to creep in than maybe some other angles or other verbalizations. One ray of light will penetrate and come in. Maybe not all of the phrases make sense to everybody. And switch, long stance, press into the ground, release those shoulder joints. And coming back to shoulder width. And now pressing into the ground with our feet. And at first, we're just going to let the hands be just jiggle, just naturally. So practicing just being relaxed and natural. So I'm not doing anything in particular with the arms or the shape, just noticing a natural reverberation through my arms and hands. Very, very relaxed. It's like a series of mini drops, mini falls, right? You just fall and the ground pushes you back. Fall and the ground pushes you back. So really just emphasizing this relaxation. Let the vibration release tension from your body. And then if we add a specific intentional vector, a mental direction, I can get this eventually to move my arms sideways, but not because I'm using my arm muscles, because I'm using intentional vectors and using the dropping or pressing of the ground to perpetuate that movement. How much can I use natural actions, natural forces? Gravity, ground force, momentum. How natural and relaxed can I be, and yet create a very specific action, very specific movement without creating a specific movement by being muscular. Aligning my body, using intention to create any movement I want, any specific movement I want, but not deviating from naturalness, natural alignment, connection to natural forces. And if I press a little bit more dynamically into the ground, again, how much can I not do this with my arms? And if you have the intention, you can send it the other way. That's just the intentional vector, not the arms. Relaxed elbows. Try not to hit yourself in the face. If you do, just take it with a smile. Release the abdomen. And then just let gravity take those arms completely and enjoy the process of that happening, completely taking the arms. Feel the vibration inside the body. That's the alive, dynamic energy that you're feeling, that vibration. And an exercise we often do in Aikido circles is the same thing that we did here, except we have more of a shape with our hands. So we're basically just cupping our hands softly, not tight, and there's a little bit of space in there. So again, not squeezing the air out. It's a nice open shape, gently clasping with intention, not tension. Intention, not muscularly holding with intention, soft. You can roll, the wrists are supple and relaxed. And in fact, there's going to be that action at the wrist this way. So if I kind of start by showing it a bit at a time. So you can even see here that, again, I'm not flexing the wrist muscularly to do that. Just like we did here, arms are just jiggling, hands are just shaking because they're just bouncing with gravity and momentum. Same with this. Now, of course, right now I'm actually generating that action momentum by using my arm muscles. I just want to show you the action of the wrists and hands, loose, relaxed. So that's going to be generated not by the arms themselves, but by the same relaxed bounce, which is really repeated dropping. So can you have those hands naturally be rocked? Pull the shoulders down. Bouncing from the floor to move those hands. Now that's the approach we've been doing, using the ground force. Technically, traditionally, how we do this motion in Aikido is we use the arms in a relaxed fashion, like you're always dropping the hand, dropping the hand, dropping hand, like a very relaxed hammer movement, to then rock the heels. So now we're doing it with the arms, but as relaxed as possible, like you're shaking water off, right? Shaking water off. But the hands happen to be unified and get that natural rhythm, relaxation, to perpetuate and propagate through the entire relaxed body till eventually it reaches your heels. And so your heels are just lightly rocking off the floor. And so it's shaking all the tension out, unifying the body. Good. Now, as we slowly come to a stop, so smaller and smaller shaking with the arms and hands, smaller, smaller, very gradually, smaller, smaller, and continue to have weight underside, especially on the arms and hands. And take a little wider stance, bend the knees, shift the weight and turn the hips, and we make big circles. All the way to the side, all the way to the other side. Shifting the weight, turning the hips. Nice big circle all the way to the sides. And bend your mind the other way. Feel the work in the hip joints. Feel a nice stretch in the torso as you turn a little bit. Good. Now we're going to go vertical one way and vertical the other way. Mainly staying sunk and thinking in the hip joints. Keeping the shoulders neutral, relaxed and neutral. So I'm not picking my arms up with my deltoids. Keep my shoulder joint released, relaxed, and open. And then doing a few in one direction. And the other way. Soft, relaxed shoulders. And then a long stance, shifting the weight forward and back, making that same big circle laterally. And other way. And switching stance. Pressing foot into the ground, let that push back up through your body. And send the mind the other way. Good, a little wider again, horse stance. Drop down the middle, squat, come up over one shoulder, right down center, up over the other shoulder. And then you can also come up off that back heel, so you're stretching a bit more over the shoulder, up off the other heel. Breathe out, it's like chopping wood. Breathe in as you come up. Good. Okay, again, shake the hands, natural rhythm. Good, now, coming down on our back. Here. So we're gonna come up with a very common exercise. We push the feet into the ground to pop the hips up. So we're just doing a reverse plank. The other day, we're exploring coming up from the plank by lengthening rather than contracting. But it's extremely helpful to contrast. Contrast. So come up a few times, exploring the contraction you do, the normal way of doing it. So noticing what you contract. You're probably going to be contracting the abdomen. You're probably going to be contracting the butt. So just get really aware of the normal way of doing it, what that feels like, what's activated as far as contraction. Okay. So we're really developing awareness. Again, you'll probably notice contraction in the abdomen and in the buttocks. Now, come up and hold it there, and you'll really notice the contraction and where the contraction is. It'll be very obvious what you're holding, where you're contracting to keep that up. Okay, bring it down, rest a little bit. Now we're going to explore a different technology, a different methodology. We're now familiar with the normal way, contracting and what is contracting. Now what I'd like you to do is, as best you can, intend and feel that you're lengthening through the top of the body to send you up. You're lengthening through the top of the thighs and right through the entire length of the surface of the torso. So that lengthen, 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 lengthen. It pops me up and then drop down. So when you drop down, it's a little bit of a rest. And then I, again, lengthen through the top of the thigh, through the whole length of the top of the torso, and do it slow enough. Look like a crane. It's a crane moving you, a mechanical crane, inch by inch or millimeter by millimeter. So you're not popping your body up and then trying to find the stretch. That's too fast and you'll miss it. You want to intend the stretch through the top of the body, right through the top of the legs, and see if you can find the connection where that stretching, that lengthening starts to pop you up like a crane moving you. You're being brought up. Lengthening to bring you up. So this is the technology, the methodology for all movement. We want to move away from the contraction technology to the lengthening, opening methodology. Consciously, intentionally lengthening along the front of the torso, tops of the thighs. See if you can find the hydraulics, the crane, mechanical action of that driving the body out. Okay, now lengthen to come up and continue lengthening to stay up. And notice how that's different than the contraction to stay up. Continue running the energy lines, intentional lines to keep you up, keep you up. And if you want, you can even go back to contraction to keep you up, to really get a clear sense of the great difference between the two approaches. If you need to come back down to rest, that's fine. And then when you're ready, lengthen to be craned up or moved up, buoyed up by the lengthening, and then continue strong, intentional current. Keep running that energy along the top front of the body to keep you supported up there. Lengthening, lengthening, lengthening to keep you supported up in that position. And back down and just rest for a moment. Okay. Now, lengthening to send you up. Stay up there for a moment, but continue to lengthen. And now to come back down, coming back down is not a rest anymore. Lengthen the bottom side of your torso and legs to send you back down. Lengthen the top of the body to pop you up and keep you up. Continue extending, running energy on the top surface of the body to support you up there. And then don't just drop down. Have the lengthening underneath of the body is what lowers you down. Of course, that's going to take a lot of concentration to go slow as you need to. If you need to pause and take a rest down here, it's mainly a mental rest, right? It's deep concentration and really thinking your mind into your body.
So, Sensei, can I ask the literal question? Lengthening in the front, is that like from the top of your head to your toes, or like what? Okay. Is it everything, or is?
Yes, I'm actually glad you asked that question. So I'm not doing the entire length. I'm not doing my head. I'm doing the torso. So from the chest, upper chest, through the torso, through the tops of my knees. So if you can see, perhaps from here. So from here, I'm lengthening. So I'm not bringing my head involved. I think that'll be too complex. So the torso and tops of the legs. That puffs me up. And the same thing on the way down. Lengthen my back through the butt, through the back of the thighs. I lengthen that whole area, and that's what lowers me down. So I lengthen top surface of the torso, top surface of the thighs. And again, I try to do it very slowly. So you're not just doing the movement and try to do a mental exercise. It's the lengthening itself that rides you up just like a crane, rotating a cable to pull you up, sends you up. Spend a moment there if you can to lengthen it even stronger to support you up there. Now, I don't just drop down. I do the lengthening, opening, lengthening the bottom surface of my body on my back, and the back of my thighs. That is what lowers me. I continue lengthening along that back surface to have every millimeter being lowered by that lengthening process, not just dropping and trying to find it. The lengthening initiates the rising, and every micromillimeter of the rising is made to happen because of the continuing increasing lengthening of the top surface. And the only reason why I'm dropping is because I'm lengthening along the bottom surface. That's the only reason why dropping is making the drop happen. Okay, resting there. Now, that's a process for everything. So this is the same as any other planking or other exercises that we've done, but lengthening, opening the body. This is just from a different angle, a different place. But again, the idea that that's the process we want for all of our movement. Everything. Not contracting, an opening process and lengthening process. Now, we'll come up here, we'll come up into standing very slowly, and just for you to explore how you stand. So I suggest coming up very, very slowly and just exploring where you're tensing, contracting, for example, your abdomen as you come up, and see if you can replace that with a lengthening somewhere in your body. Brain action is done by a lengthening rather than contracting. At the very least, just notice where you're contracting and how much you're contracting. You're not going to be able to get away from the contracting completely, of course, but becoming more heightenedly aware, sharply aware of what you're doing with the body and the intention. Are you contracting? And if you are contracting, just noticing that. And eventually get better at finding the lengthening or the source of your mechanics to move. And that's partially valid, and also it's healthier, more organic. We get to be more and more open, allows energy to flow more freely through the entire body, allows our tissues to be vibrant and supple. One aspect of aging, we all know that as a person ages, we tend to get shortened and tightened. I mean, here's a classic example of an elderly person, very elderly person walking. Everything's tight. The steps are very small because all the muscles are very short and tight. Everything tightens and shortens. So all the muscles and tendons get very tight and short. But what's very interesting is the fascia as well becomes tight and thick. And so it's been discovered, for example, that when people, we just talk about the hands, it applies to every part of the body. But if we use the hands as the example, as people's hands get short and tight as they get older, there's now the debate and theory that that's actually happening not just because the muscles and tendons are getting dry and tight and short, but the fascia is getting very dry and it's shrinking, shortening. And so everything we're doing is about relaxing, releasing the tissues so they don't get dense and tight. So that the tissues, the muscles and the tendons get to stay open and long. And perhaps most critically, the fascia gets engaged, gets activated, gets lengthened. That will be the antidote to this happening. It is literally the antidote. It's literally the opposite direction. The joints also are rejuvenated. People's compacted joints, the joint can never really heal when it's tight, closed. The healing can only start to occur when a joint is opened and released. Then the energy can flow more freely. The joint can have space now to heal and to come back into what a joint is supposed to be, an open hinge, not a tight, closed action or object, but an open, released hinge. So not only is this a different way of moving, a more evolved way of moving, it's actually what's going to keep the body open, supple, spacious, flexible. So let's take that again into all of our movement. So when we do our basic movement, it's an opportunity to be working this inner revolution, this inner evolution. What technology, methodology are we using? Am I moving out of contraction? Contraction? And that's again how most people move, and art styles, martial arts, that's what they do. And that goes a long way to developing power and speed, but eventually there's a cost to that contraction. So can I move by length instead of contracting? Can I do it by opening? Can I do it by releasing? And then it becomes a health system, not just a martial system, but a health system. So if we go over some basic movements. So let's do our Minucci. One of the moves that we do the most often is Minucci. It's so fundamental in so many respects: posture, mechanics, hips and legs driving the arms, extension, not contraction. So Minucci is one of the best movements for learning basic Aikido and for developing the Aiki body, open, released, vibrant and supple body, and a body responsive to our clear intention. So see how much you can take from what we did in the previous part of the class into this movement. Or just as good, noticing what you're losing from what you were noticing before, noticing what is happening that you're losing. And even if you can't quite get it back, just noticing what you lose from what we were creating before, that's a win. Because eventually you'll be able to keep it or get it back. For example, if I lean forward the tiniest little bit, that fires the long muscles along the spine and things start to concretize and tighten. Of course, physically I'm compromised, my balance is compromised, I'm more open and exposed martially, but also if there's any tightness anywhere in the body, that has a cascading effect to tighten up the rest of the body. Can I continue to have my spine dangling long? Can I use the ground to move me? Can I keep the shoulder joints open and released? And can I explore lengthening? Can I lengthen from that back leg through my structure? Can I lengthen to cause it to happen? Can I lengthen even more as I bring the arms back? Each time, feel that your arms and your fingers get longer, especially on the way back. So on the way back, your fingers should feel like your fingers are dragging on the floor, scraping on the floor, without leaning or striving to do that. It's intention and feeling. Shoulders stay down. Try it with the tenkai, with the turn, and notice what you lose. Notice when you pull in, notice when you shirk, condense, contract. And see if you can slow down, replace it with opening or lengthening. Can I do my Minucci by dragging along the floor, dragging my fingers along the wall, and then fingertips touch the ceiling? Scraping along the wall in front, scraping along the floor as I come back. Scraping along the floor as I go forward, scraping along the wall, fingertips touch the upper corners along the ceiling. And then have the spine get longer as it hangs, and just use the ground to push you. Let me know if you have any comments or questions.
How, is there any method of I can lengthen the front muscles. I can't feel what it's like to do that in the back. I don't have anything to relate to it. It's so unfamiliar.
Right. So that's a very, very good point. So go with what you have a sense of. And I don't usually lengthen both sides. Usually it's just one side at a time.
Okay.
So don't worry at all about, am I getting both sides? If you can have a sense of one side of your body or even one part of your body lengthening, just dwell with that, focus on that.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's a very good point to bring up. So don't worry about activating all parts of the body, all sides of the body. So notice what and where you can have a release, lengthening, and opening. And enjoy that. Notice it even more. Dive into it with your awareness and enjoy it. So because that was again, a leading question, let's try one other thing. If you want, this will be a little bit more complex because it is going to be talking about different sides. So you don't have to try this. You can just stay with what you can sense. But eventually we can try more and more things and be more complete about what's opening and stretching. So for example, as I go forward, I'm going to lengthen the back. Back up here from the back of the heel up. And going back is because I'm lengthening the front. Now, as Marlene said, maybe you don't have a sense of connection or awareness to the back part of the body, certain part of the body. So you can just focus on the front or the part you can work on. And then the other methodology is fake it till you make it. So when you're ready, you can do the best you can to feel the part that you can't feel. Imagine and intend it anyway. So fake it till you make it is a legitimate and necessary training tool, training methodology. So one side of your body might be just intellectual and you're faking it till you're faking it the best you can. Might just be an intellectual exercise. That's how it starts. If it's really new, just work on the part that you can relate to. But if you have more experience, try lengthening up the back, extend you forward, lengthening up the front, extend you back. You are sent through the lengthening process. Lengthen on the back, and it will propel you forward. Lengthen up the front, it'll propel you back. One thing I'm noticing, it really helps to straighten the back of my neck. Whole back for sure, but the back of the neck is a problem area for most people. And it really lengthens and straightens the back of my neck. So it's very organically corrective. Orthopedically corrective. See if you can find that technology where it's a lengthening process. I find I can take the work out of the abdomen can release.